Welcome to Hardcover Feedback. I'm Brandi Smits.
I'm Tracey Hill.
And today we are discussing The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson. The day Louisiana teenager Rory DeVoe arrives in London marks a memorable occasion. For Rory, it's the start of a new life at a London boarding school. But for many, this will be remembered as the day a series of brutal murders broke out across the city, gruesome crimes mimicking the horrific work of Jack the Ripper in the autumn of 1888. Rory soon learns the truth about the secret ghost police of London and discovers her own shocking abilities.
The rest of the night was cozy. Jazza settled down with her German. I replied to some emails from my friends back home and noodled around on the internet for a while and thought about doing French. Nothing disturbed my peace of mind until I was pulling the curtains for the night. As I did, something caught my eye. I had already yanked the curtain shut before my brain registered that it had seen something it didn't like. But when I opened it again, there was nothing out there but some wet trees and cobblestones. It had started to rain. I stared for a moment, trying to figure out what I'd seen. Something had been right below, a person. Someone had been standing in front of the building, but that was no surprise. People stood in front of the building all the time. "What's the matter?" Jazza asked. "Nothing," I said, pulling the curtain shut again. "Thought I saw something. This is the problem with all of this media coverage of the Ripper. It makes people afraid." She was right, of course, but I noticed she pulled the curtains on her side more tightly closed as well.
Okay, so first of all, one of the biggest appeals that I had about this book when I first picked it up was that it's like about Jack the Ripper, which was such an interesting time in history because you got the Victorian time, Victorian London, so there's a lot going on there, and then this horrible mystery that's never been solved. But I don't know, I got my hopes up a little bit, I think. Like, it wasn't horrible. I'm not saying the book was bad, but I feel like I got my hopes up a little bit as to what I thought it was going to be.
As a contemporary story about Jack the Ripper, you know, to me, at first blush, it was like, another one. And then I started getting into it and seeing that I like the narrator, Rory. I was enjoying, but not really seeing where her getting into this English boarding school was going. And then, but the mention of the contemporary Ripper-like murders really was kind of startling, the way that they are presented and the conditions of them being different from the previous ones. It's not exact copycat, so.
And it's interesting that you mentioned you liking Rory, because I think that out of everything in this book, I think that Maureen Johnson's characters are probably what made me like this book so much. She has a really awesome way of developing really unique characters that are fun. Like, there are so many characters in this book that I kind of want to be like, hey, I would hang out with all of these people because they're hysterical and they're kind of quirky. And obviously, as we mentioned, the ghost police, so there are ghosts in this book. And the ghosts in this book are probably my favorite things. Like, the good ghosts, bad ghosts, all of them in this book are very fun. I don't know. They're good. They're good, well developed, and I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get there, though. I mean, first we have to follow Rory around while she settles into this boarding school, and then the thing that happens to her that leads her to find out about the realm of ghosts and the connection of that to the Ripper murders that are going on at the same time she shows up to the boarding school. So it's a little slow to get going, but once it does, it really starts to charge along. And I agree with you about the characters being a big appeal of the book.
I think I listened to it on audio, which sometimes that can make the book better, sometimes it's the same, sometimes worse, whatever. But what's really cool about the narrator for this was that she did, obviously everyone but Rory is British because they're all in London. So Rory had this very distinct southern Louisiana accent, and then everybody else had like a British accent, but no one had the exact same British accent. It was so cool. Like she kind of took a whole bunch of different dialects when she was reading it, and it was really interesting. So as an audiobook, I think that it was pretty excellent because it was really easy to differentiate between all the different characters, and because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different characters in this. So.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters, and it's still very easy to keep people apart and tell them apart. They are distinctive characters, and so, but I would not say it's a purely character-driven story.
Not at all.
And I mean, the plot does get pretty intense after a while, and there were parts of it later on when the action really starts pulling together and the bad stuff really starts happening. It gets harrowing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not like a floaty little, oh look, there's ghosts everywhere and we're going to try to figure out what's going on with the ghosts while we have our splendid day at school.
It's
like
not Scooby-Doo.
No,
kind
it gets
of
very
quality.
it gets
It's
very
not
intense
that
at
light.
times and
Yeah,
very dangerous and yeah, because I feel like it can feel like the description that we're giving can come off as very shallow, and it's not a shallow book. There's a lot of intricacies weaved into it. There's a lot of red herrings and all this stuff like that.
But we would spoil a lot if we really tried
I think that's the problem
delve into it
I'm
too
having
heavily,
right now.
trying not to like mess it up for people who would be interested in it. And I think it's important that Maureen Johnson doesn't really pull any punches with it just because this is geared toward a younger audience, by younger, teen level. But it's about Jack the Ripper. There's no mistaking that. It's not like, it's not really about something that brutal. No, it is something that
There's
brutal.
intestines wrapped around heads. And
Yeah.
It's very graphic.
Yep.
And
The
I
violence
just remember
is
that
real,
scene in
and
particular.
It's
but,
pretty, it's intense. So
okay, well, I mean, it wasn't my favorite book that I've read, but I would definitely give it an average rating. I've read other things by Maureen Johnson, so in comparison, maybe that's something because I liked some of her other work better.
Yeah.
So that's not saying I didn't like this one,
Sure.
but I'm going to give it 2.5 stars today.
Okay, well, this is my first experience with anything by Maureen Johnson. I've read other teen mystery type or ghost story books, but not by her. So I was pretty impressed. I have nothing else to compare it with. It made me want to read what would come after this book. So I give it a 3.
So our book today was The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson. And I'm Brandi Smits.
I'm Tracey Hill.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.